Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Ordinary People Living Extraordinary Lives. I'm really excited to be here with Allison Bell today, who now has taken her Arbonne business and she's the Executive National VP. Is that correct, Allison?
Yeah.
and which is the highest title that you can attain within the Arbonne network in business and community. And I asked Allison to be on here today because I've watched her journey through this experience over the last, has it been 8 years-ish?
8 years, two
Oh my
days
gosh.
ago, actually.
Yeah.
Mhm.
8 years of her journey. Originally, she was in real estate and had been in real estate for several years and was hitting burnout and wanted to really model her life so that she had more time with her family. And she has inspired me in the past, and she's a very inspirational, positive, hardworking woman. So I just wanted her to come on and talk about her journey stepping into her most extraordinary life. So thank you for being here, Allison. And I'd love to hear your story.
Thank you for having me. Quite the introduction. Gosh, I know I was trying to think of when we initially met, and I think it would have been at I want to say Ashley's wedding, maybe, or at her baby shower, which was a long time ago. So, and really in the infancy of my business. So you really have been around for the whole journey, for better or for worse. I always equate business a little bit like driving a car, for those of us who are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists. When people start, I just say it's like driving a car, like you're going to suck at first. And you just have to accept that and get better, right? It's like driving a car. You can read all the books you want about driving a car, but you are not going to gain the skills until you just get in and you start, and you just have to, be bad to get good and be good to get great. And, you have to start to do any of it. So I love that. So you kind of hit it on the head. I was a real estate broker for almost 10 years. I grew up in a real estate home. I was a year out of college, and I did not know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I had so many friends that, like, from the time we were in high school, man, they knew what they wanted to do. They knew they wanted to go into dentistry or whatever. And I never had we talked about this, a singular passion. But one of the things that I sort of thought of going into real estate is I wanted to avoid the quote unquote rat race, which is a little bit funny, right? Because in my mind, the rat race was like the 8 to 5, right? And it's, when you're in your early 20s, you don't know what the rat, you don't know what the rat race is. Like, you hear the term and you're like, yeah, I don't want that, but you don't really know what it is, right? Mm-hmm. There's plenty of people going to an 8 to 5 every day that love what they're doing, right? So I didn't know what I was talking about, but I loved that career for about 8 years. I didn't mind working 7 days a week and 60-hour work weeks. When I was in my mid to late 20s, it was like, whatever, even when Brian and I first met. Yeah, when Brian and I first met, like, I bought my first home on my own in my 20s, and I was kind of checking the boxes, right? Like, that list that they create, whoever they are, I was doing the things that you do, right? You get the education, and then you get the job, and you buy the things. And honestly, I never even stopped to consider, like, am I going to love this for 30 or 40 years? And so I wasn't
You're just in it. You were just in it.
Just in it. Yeah. You don't know any better, and so I wasn't looking for anything when Arbonne fell in my lap. My girlfriend launched her business. She really wanted to get more time with her kids. I wasn't even married yet. I didn't have kids. So that story didn't really make sense to me, but I fell in love with the products because I actually was looking for cleaner, safer, healthier products. I had started to learn about toxins in our skin and, all the things that I didn't know about growing up. I grew up in a healthy eating household, but we never talked about, like, all the
environmental toxins.
Yes, what you're putting on through your skin and all those things. And so I became a product user. The business flew way over my head. And I also, admittedly kind of thought, oh, that's so cute that, Jeff's making enough money. You can do one of those little things, right? So if you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, that's kind of what I thought, like, it's okay. You're in good company. So I didn't see it at all. But it was great because my girlfriend built this business without me, and probably several months later, and it was like all of a sudden she was going part-time at her job. And, I had ideas of what it would take to be successful in network marketing. And in my mind, you were going to have to, like, pound your social media network with buy my this and buy my that, and kind of like grow a third eye and get real weird and all those things, right? And so initially I was like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if that's for me. But I watched her go, and over these like 8 months, I'm like, okay, well, she's just sharing stuff she loves. Okay, we do that anyway, right? So that makes sense. She hasn't gotten weird. But there was one way she really changed. She was happy. She was optimistic. She was hopeful. She had this new pep in her step. And I was like, okay, like maybe this is something. But when she went part-time at her career, she hit my button. Because, you know, I was in the thick of like this crazy work schedule. And all of a sudden I saw her starting to own her calendar. Yeah. And I thought, wait a second, maybe this
and not be attached to her phone. Every real estate agent I've ever met they're on call 24/7 all the time. In the middle of the night, the phone rings and they're worried. But
totally.
And not that
everything's
some
an
people
emergency.
thrive off of that, but it's hard with a family.
Well, you know, and I think often we think we thrive, but I think it's more of an addiction more than anything, right? That addiction to that like rush of like, what's next, right? So she went part-time at her career, and I found myself saying, okay, next time you have one of those little Arbonne things, like I was probably still rolling my eyes, I'll come listen, like I was doing her some great favor, you know? And so I sat down with her and this gal named Tiffany, and Tiffany talked about the business. And again, even at this point, I was not yet married. I did not have kids, although Brian and I were, either engaged or about to be. But I looked at the business and I thought, well, this is smart, right? Like this actually makes sense because, you know, it was about learning how to time leverage and, you know, working hard, like smarter and not harder. And I think all of us at one point or another have had an idea of like, is that one of those pyramid things? And so when I looked at the business plan and I thought, well, gosh, this actually really makes sense because it's not about how many people you bring into the business. It really is about, serving others and teaching others. And this connected with me because in my office in real estate, I always was helping new agents come in and teaching them the ropes and helping them with contracts. And that was something I never saw a penny from. Right. And so I thought, well, if I took that same, you know, enjoyment that I get out of helping others and I applied it to Arbonne, I could actually help them and grow a business. So that kind of makes sense. And so I started to think, okay, so I finally jumped in. I was an Arbonne poser for about a year because I was, you know, ego, fear, what will people think? You know, gosh, I feel like the biggest key from going from an ordinary to an extraordinary life is realizing that people are thinking about you so much less than you think they are. People are not sitting at home thinking about what kind of side hustle you're doing or that you change jobs. Like they're sitting around and you know what they're thinking about? They're thinking about what's going on with them. They're thinking about what people are thinking about them. They're worried about their debt. They're worried about their future. They've got their own slew of issues. And I think that, if you've done the Enneagram, and I know you have, like I'm a 2 with a 3. And if you know anything about a 2, you know that we're inherently people pleasers. We care what people think about us. So this is, I think that it was like one of the biggest keys to unlocking happiness was understanding my friends' opinions were not going to pay my mortgage. And honestly, they were thinking about me a whole lot less than I even thought they were. And so after a year of kind of fiddling around with Arbonne, I was 7 months pregnant and it just hit me like, I'm going to bring this child home into a chaotic, stressed out, overworked home because that's what I've built, right? And even though my real estate career was a blessing, that was not the life that I imagined for a child / children. And it really kind of hit me at that moment. You know what? It's time to get serious about this business. And so I did. And gosh, you know what? Who knew it actually worked when I actually like did the things and I became coachable and I followed my leaders. And, you know, that I left real estate. It's coming up on, so next year or next month will be 6 years. And people ask me all the time, like, do you miss it? Will you go back? And it's like, no, I'm completely unemployable. You know, I work a fraction of the hours I used to. And like the worst thing that can happen in my business is like someone gets the wrong color foundation, or they don't like the chocolate protein and they want to get vanilla instead. Like there's no emergencies, right? And when I left real estate, it was Brian's 30th birthday. And so I surprised him with a trip to Miami for his 30th birthday. He'd never been, he'd always wanted to been. And it was my first vacation in 10 years that I wasn't attached to my phone. Like you said, I left it in the house that we rented, and we played all day, and we had our son at that point. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what it's like to actually have harmony in your life. And I didn't really realize that. I thought I was seeking an income and, you know, but what I really was seeking, I think, is harmony, you know, like not living in this high pressure pace of get up and go, 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 go until you drop at 10 o'clock at night. And it doesn't mean that I still don't have stuff going all day. Like you guys know, if you're mom, it's like, it never stops, but it's just not that high pressure fuse anymore. And, so I left real estate and I kind of just never looked back. And, you know, my goal in this business was to get to regional vice president. So that's your third promotion. You know, average income is $5,000 to $10,000 a month. That would have been a really great, comfortable spot. And that was kind of my end game. But once I got there, I realized that there is no end game, right? Because there's always somebody else out there who wants what you've gotten, right? Who wants to be home with their kids, who wants to get out of debt, who wants harmony, who wants to own their life. And so in the midst of sort of getting what I needed, I completely tripped over this deep passion for serving others and this deep purpose of helping people change their lives. And I was really never aiming to get to executive national vice president. You know, honestly, I don't think I felt like I deserved that or was worthy of that or capable of that. That seemed so far off. But you just help one person at a time, and it's amazing what will happen in 8 years. I mean, you just can't believe it.
For you that this was it. This was your desire and your passion to help others. Because I think for a lot of people, you get stuck in with, well, especially network marketing is it's like, oh, it's about the products. It's about the products. But everything that you've told me too is it's not about the products are wonderful and they're clean and it's what you were searching, but helping other people have this freedom in their own life. Like, when did that click for you that was your gift?
That's a really good question. I think as I kind of grew to regional vice president, probably because as I grew, I pulled people along with me that were getting like to area manager, you know, they were getting that $1,000 to $4,000 a month. That gives people a lot of choices. And so I think it was really at that level, it hit me like, this is not about me. Like, yes, this will pay my bills and this will take care of my family, but this really isn't about me. This is really about how many others can we serve? And like we talked about earlier, it's not about national vice president for a lot of people. There's lots of people who love their job, but man, like an extra $500 or $600 a month lets them save for taking their family on vacation every year or pay off their student loans. And so I think it just really hit me that everybody is going to define success differently, but there's a capacity for me to use this vehicle to help them get to what their definition of success is, you know. And, you know, I have people who have used this and built an income with Arbonne, you know, outside of their job that they're working, because their real passion is maybe journalism or something. And so they're building Arbonne to create enough income so they can leave their job to pursue their passion. So Arbonne isn't necessarily their passion, it's their vehicle to chase their passion, which is really it's kind of yeah, it's really, and I think, you know, that is the key, right? Is figuring out how each of us can define our extraordinary, right? It's not the same for us. I mean, even you and I, right? We're the same on the Enneagram, and yet we're although we are both chasing wellness, I guess. So there's definitely some similarities, but you know, it's really cool to be able to sit down with each human that has a different set of needs and skills and backgrounds and desires, and ask them the question of like, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I think for so many of us, I was going through real estate and I was checking off the boxes, but nobody ever said to me, Allison, like, what do you want your life to look like? If time and money wasn't an issue right now, what would your days look like? How many of us actually stop and ask ourselves that question, right?
Well,
We just go,
yeah, you have that idea in your head of what,
yeah,
yeah, I kind of want this, I kind of want that. But when you stop and gain that clarity, it can change your life too. And when that,
totally.
you're on that edge of like, well, real estate's fine, I've clicked all the boxes, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have kids. But then you looked at it and you're like, wait a second, this life isn't conducive to what I want to build. And then you sit down and you look at it and you're like, oh, wait, these things don't match up. Because
Yes.
we don't have a GPS if we don't sit down and physically write it down and take that time, gain that clarity, then you're just kind of wandering too.
We are. And I think so often is that we have put limits on ourselves, or we've allowed the limits that other people have kind of imposed on us to become our own limits. And so that's not gonna allow us to dream. So if I'm thinking, well, gosh, I'd really like X, Y, and Z, but I think I'm only capable of this, or somebody once told me that I would, I wouldn't be good at that. So I think like the first key to really discovering who it is that we want to be and the life that we want to lead is sitting down and saying, okay, blow the cap off of what I currently think is possible. And let me just paint the picture. Like, forget about all the strings and the limitations and the head junk. Let me just paint the picture, because you're right. If we don't know where we're going, any place will do, right? And so I don't want to just wander and get to the end of my life and ask myself, like, did it matter? Did it matter?
Up in that day to day, because as a mom too, day to day it changes. You have all these plans of what's going to happen. You wake up and your kid has a runny nose or a headache or a fever, and you're like, okay, shift, adjust. What am I going to do? What's this day going to look like? How am I going to put this here and that there? And things are constantly thrown at us, so we get in that reactive mode, and we can get stuck there.
We totally can.
We don't have a vision of what we want it to look like. And I think that for on the Enneagram too, those 2s and 3s and that doing and that visionary helps you to see that and then make that plan. And once you realize what your plan was, then you're like, okay, it's black or white. This is on it, this is off. This is on it, this is off. And it gets to be easier.
It's so true. A really good piece of advice I got from my mentors once is every year she sits down and she comes up with her top 3. What are my top 3 priorities for this year? And then as opportunities are coming along, she's saying yes, she's saying no. I just recently had this really cool opportunity to contribute to a well-known author's book that he's writing on network marketing. And I'm like, well, that's really neat, but I really had to sit down and ask, like, is this in line with my goals this year? And it's so interesting because I had just sat down, I had just written my goals, and boom, distraction pops up. Right. And I sat,
shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. And I had to really kind of ask myself, okay, if I was going to take this project on, what's my motivation? Okay. Going back, I'm a 2-3. Okay. So we know what my motivators are. So what's my motivation? And I really talked through it with my husband. And I said, well, here's our goals for this year. This is going to take time. If I was, if I really wanted to be a writer, that would have been a really phenomenal, opportunity. But I had to really sit back and go, okay, this is going to take time away from me, time away from my goals. It'll be a great ego stroke, right? Fantastic on social media and, you got to contribute to it, great ego stroke. But is it really going to help our top 3 for this year? And so I had to decline politely and say, gosh, this is such a great opportunity, but no, thank you. Which, if and I love the Enneagram. So if you haven't done the Enneagram, you guys, I know some people think
I'll post the link to the Enneagram. It's such great information, and
it is
a good resource to kind of look into how you see the world. And if you don't know your passion, or you just feel like you can't connect to it, this is a great
Mm-hmm.
way to just see, like, this is how I see the world. This is how I act or react in certain situations, or
Yes.
the things I look at. It just helps to see that lens. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
post that. Take the time to Enneagram.
Yeah. And it also helps you understand what some of your core motivators are, right? So the less, I don't want to call myself enlightened because Lord knows I've got a long way to go, but the less enlightened Allison would probably have jumped on that opportunity, right? Because it feels that sort of need for, people to notice what you're doing, or to be, like, it kind of fills that.
Well, and
But
I
it
think
was,
that's so huge, is that clarity. Like, you have the clarity of what you want now.
yeah.
Is this going to fulfill that clarity? And
Yeah.
I've always been victim to kind of shiny object syndrome and not having
Mhm.
it totally written out, because then it's like, ooh, opportunity. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And the more
Yes.
scattered your energy is, the more scattered your productivity is going to be, the more scattered
Yes.
your results are going to be. Whereas if you have that focus, if you really know,
Mhm.
and you know
Yeah.
how to decline those pretty amazing opportunities, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you ask the universe for something, they're going to give it to you, but first they're going to give you 2 distractions to see how badly you
Exactly.
want it.
Exactly. And it was really so interesting. And I think the beauty of it is being able to step back and filter it through your top three, and then say no without that bad feeling in your gut.
Mm.
Like, it wasn't like,
Everything out.
oh, I had to say no. It was like, yep, I had to say no to that. That's not on my priority list. And I don't, like, I totally am a FOMO girl. I want to do everything,
I know,
but it
I
felt
feel that way.
really good to be able to just say, you know what, that's not a focus. And if, I feel like oftentimes, people say, oh, I struggle with my vision, and I was telling you this earlier, is if vision is tricky for you, work on, developing that muscle every day. Like, there is, what I actually, I should post it. It's called the winning image story.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of like a structure of how you can design like your perfect quote unquote year. And it gives you that like format of how to write it out. But then the key is visiting it every day, right? Like
Yes.
creating a vision movie.
Yeah.
Because some people are visionary, they're crystal clear. They can see 5 years down the road. They know what it's going to look like. I'm really great at the here and now. And so it's a muscle I really have to work on all the time. It does not come naturally to me. And man, you got to keep that vision clear
And
if
they
you want to
and
stay on the
get
road.
in the way, and it gets tough, and they're always going to have adversity. But if you have those, if you're developing that muscle all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you have those tools and those resources to go back to keep that going. Because it's just like
Yes.
working out every day. If you don't go to the gym, your muscle isn't going to get stronger. It's not going to work better than it did a few days ago. And that's
Yeah.
just it's with anything, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
You have to use it
Yes.
in order
Use
to
it or lose it, baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
in order
It's,
to develop.
and I tell people, just like, when we bring a child home, right? We don't look at the child and go, oh, you're so beautiful. You know what? I'm going to give it 6 months. We'll see how it goes. And then, if it doesn't work out, I don't know, maybe I'll do something. Like, we don't do that. And
We
I
did
think
it.
that's really, we're like, we bring that baby home and we're like, I don't care what it's going to take. Like, me and you, kid, we're together forever. Right. And I think that if we can hold on to
That's a
the
great
vision,
mm-hmm.
yeah, the vision that we have of our life with that kind of tenacity
Mm-hmm.
and conviction,
Action. Yeah.
yes, you will find like the doors will open. But the problem is like, in this microwave society, we're sort of half-assed committed to lots of things. We're
Yeah.
in, pardon the term, but like, we're halfway committed to our fitness goals. We're halfway committed to our health goals. We're halfway committed to our financial goals, our relationship goals. And so, when the struggle happens, or the hiccup comes, which it inevitably will,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to bow out because we haven't said, this is what I'm doing no matter what, and really committed to it. And so it's
You
like
have to
people go
dive
like,
off that cliff and have faith
yeah,
that
yeah,
this is the right thing. Just like when
Yeah.
you're bringing that baby home, it is going to be hard. Oh man, is it going to be hard?
Yeah.
But you have faith that you're going to raise this human into the best
Yeah.
human that you possibly can.
Yes.
And that is
Totally.
what you need to have with yourself too. And
Yeah.
it's easy to do it with other people, but you have to have faith in yourself that you're 100% committed to that
Yeah.
passion inside
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
as that external passion. And having
Yeah.
that clarity is just, it's an absolute must.
Yeah. Well, and it's really just committing to becoming the human that you were put on this planet to be. Like, I want to know that I became who I was meant to be. Like, I want to die on E, right? I don't want to leave anything in the gas tank at the end, and I think, so often, like, we have a 30-day healthy living program and people say, okay, I really want to do this. Like, I'm ready to get healthy and feel my best. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And they're like, oh gosh,
Oh my gosh.
it's my husband's birthday on the 20th. And so like, we're going to be drinking. And I'm
24.
like, you can't commit to 30 days. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I think that those are sometimes the questions that we have to ask ourselves is like, am I committed, or am I committed except, or committed unless, or committed until?
By your commitment.
Yeah, there's an asterisk. Yeah, or their contingency plans.
If this and this happens, and it comes to too hard.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Like, think about all the things that give you the most joy in your life, and think about how hard it is. Like, we all like to walk around and pretend our marriages are like so perfect and easy breezy, but you got, like, at least in my household, marriage is hard. You guys, like, I used to think of the word humble as like humility, as not bragging and not being boastful, but like, man, has marriage taught me what like putting other people's needs ahead of your own. That's not the natural human condition. We're inherently selfish. We want what we want. We want our spouse to give us what we want, and yet, man, is it worth it to just do the work? And, and I think about just all the things that I value most in my life. Not one of them is easy, not one, and so I think that we have to kind of, but it doesn't mean it's that hard. Like it's the same thing. Like, we don't have to just think, oh, this is so awful, but it's just knowing, like,
talking about before too earlier today is that, oh my God, I totally just lost my train of thought.
Mom brain.
Mom brain, yes. But that commitment, there we go. So if you are really in flow and your passion is there, that hard work, it's hard at times, but it doesn't feel like hard work. You're excited about it. You have these goals you want to accomplish, and those things are along that goal. So you're okay putting in the time or having those hard conversations, or you're committed to your marriage. So yes, it's not going to be easy, but it's something you love and you want to nourish, and it doesn't seem as hard when the passion is for it.
It's so true. And it really is about, at least in my profession, and it might be different for everybody's profession, but in mine, it really is about learning to chase the job and not the title. And the job is getting up early. Sometimes it's staying up late. Sometimes it's having those hard conversations, because I think that it's really easy for us to chase the external thing that people see, the title, the whatever. And those are all great, right? Because that next mile marker gives us something to shoot for. I love goals. Like, I'm a crazy goal chaser, but I've had to really learn to love the chase and not just love the trophy, right? Because the learning to really chase whatever it is that we're chasing, and not keep thinking, like, I used to have the worst destination-itis. Like, I'll be happy when I'll feel comfortable, when I'll feel like we have enough money, when I'll feel valuable, worthy. Because it's never the thing, and then we find ourselves hustling for our worthiness. It's like, we came into this world with worthiness, right? Like, we are so worthy right now, who we are today, but we're out there hustling for it because we keep thinking that something else is going to give it to us. And we have to just really, man, this was me. Like I was always hustling for my worthiness, you know, like acceptance and whatever it is. And man, it's like, you can never get enough of that because it's not really where it comes from. You know, we have to really just learn that like we are good enough right now as we stand today with all our imperfections. And so
in the present moment.
In the present moment. Yeah. So we don't need that next title, trophy, whatever it is to be good enough. We're good enough now. It doesn't mean we don't want to chase it, right? Because there's inherent quality and value in pushing yourself and growing yourself and challenging yourself. But, you know, really recognizing that we're enough today, right now. And
without comparing yourself to anyone else. And that every part of the journey there's purpose in every single part of the journey. Yes, it's more fun to celebrate and have those good days, but those hard times are just as important. And we learn so much, and having that acceptance that even that is part of your journey too.
You learn so much more in the fire. Right? You learn so much more in the fire. And
when there's a tiger chasing you, you sure as hell are going to figure out how to get out of that.
Yes, it is so true. And I think that, again, like we're kind of living in this weird culture where, you know, we're constantly trying to avoid pain and quote unquote failure. And there really is no failure other than just giving up, right? And failure is an inherent part of success. It's all about just failing forward and failing forward. Like one of my favorite quotes I ever heard was, I either win or I learn.
Yes.
You never lose. I either win or I learn, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think that women in particular, like I have struggled. I mean, I'll be 40 in a couple months. And I think I probably spent the first 38 years of my life struggling with worthiness, and that in learning where to gain that, right? And I see that all around me. And I wish, like, if I could give everybody I know just one thing, it would just be that deep down belief that we're all enough, you know, because I think that is something that so many of us are struggling with in some way, right? And it gets covered up with booze or addiction or food or exercise or other things. And we work so hard to avoid those feelings of not enoughness. But I think if we can just dig deep and do that work, we find ourselves not needing all of the other like crutches, right? I used to always drink in social situations, and I didn't realize it at the time, but because it's like it took the edge off. And man, I found that now it's like, I really ask myself, do I feel like a glass of wine tonight? And what a powerful, like, it seems so silly, but really I look back at how many situations I used to be in where I drank either just because my friends were, or because it made me feel a little bit more comfortable, and really learning to just show up, like show up fully, show up in your
messy journey.
Yeah, totally.
Just being that authentic you, it takes so much weight off.
It does.
It takes so much weight off because, like you said earlier, people really don't care. You know, they just want to show up. They want to hear what you have to say. And, you know, what you have to say is more important than what you look like and all of that too.
Yes.
And you can make such a bigger impact if you're focused more on how you can serve than what people are thinking about you when you're serving.
Yeah, you know, and also I had to understand I'm not going to be every single person's cup of tea. And that doesn't take away my own value. And I think that is something, even now, you know, leading a large organization, I'm not going to be the perfect leader for everybody. And I'm so lucky that I have other leaders that we can help lead our teams, right? Because my leadership style isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I think I spent a long time trying to be the perfect leader for everybody. And now it's just like, like you said, a weight off. Now I'm just going to show up. I'm going to give you my absolute best. But if you're needing something else, I can help you find it. I may not be, You know, like so Tiffany is my direct leader. She's very direct. She's very like, I like to put sugar on stuff, you know, but there's like moments where like I have a teammate, she is really direct. And so there's moments where I'm like, hey, call, you know, like if you need extra on this, call Tiff, you know, and understanding that that makes me more powerful because I have other people around me that can help serve the people in my organization, but I can't be the person and the perfect leader to several hundred people. I'm one human. I can barely run a household. Like you should see my house right now. You know what I'm saying?
I had a teacher tell me in school, I said, if you are pleasing everybody, then you're doing something wrong. And it was that advice that I totally took to heart, because if you're pleasing everybody, that means you're changing who you are for each individual person. And you're not going to get along with everybody, and you're not going to be able to please everybody, but there's someone out there that can do that for that person. And if you're being your authentic self, you can help the people more that you can help and that do resonate with you. And it's a vulnerable situation, and it's vulnerable and it's scary. But I have found stepping in and doing even these videos and these interviews, it's just, this is me, raw and all, messy and all, like it or not, this is who I am. And that feels good.
Yeah, it does. And you know, the other thing is that it's almost like a freedom to like, I would rather show up as me and know that, you know, not every single person in the room is going to connect with me, love me, whatever, than show up not as me, so everybody sort of likes me. You know, it's like, well, how much, you know, how deep of a relationship can you get in that? And I mean, honestly, today I look back on the last 8 years in this business, and I think the biggest gift I've gotten is personal development. Like, and the funniest thing, like the joke's on me, because when I started this business, they're like, you know, like, here's some books. And I was like, I don't need personal development. Man, if that's not a sign of somebody who needs some personal development. But you don't know what you don't know. But man, it's like, I look back and I think I am not the same human that I was 8 years ago because of my mentors, because of learning and growing and leading people and, you know, challenges and growth. And
there's not an end to growth. And every day you have to have personal development as an epicenter. There's so much to learn and grow from. And when you read those things and open up to that, it's exciting too.
It is.
Free process.
Yeah. And it's made me a better, you know, wife. And Brian is a really direct person. And I, you know, there could be a million reasons. It doesn't really matter. It's not a psychology session, but I really struggled to have hard conversations with him early because I had this like deep fear of being abandoned. I mean, it's like daddy issues or whatever. But you know, but, and now it's like, I just say what I mean. It's not like I'm nasty about it, but I just say what I mean. And then it's like, then we're in truth and we have a solution we can work through together. And then I am not, you know, just brushing stuff under the rug. And it used to really frustrate him too, because he could tell something was wrong and I didn't, you know, it's like I wasn't resolving it. And so, man, like that ability to just be transparent, you know, and just say, hey, I didn't really like that. This is how it made me feel. It's like, man, there's so much. I spent literally the first almost 4 decades of my life, like not telling people the whole truth, not to be deceitful, but because I was afraid of letting them down. People pleaser, total number 2. And that is one of the biggest things and the freedoms that I've gotten through personal growth is just letting go of trying to be perfect. I mean, trust me, if you walk through this house right now, you would be like, she's definitely let go of trying to be perfect. But even with my house, it's like understanding that I'm only one person.
You have a good not to do list.
I have a good not to do list. And at the end of the day, like, is it more important that I took the kids to the park, or is it more important that my kitchen is impeccable? Like, well, like, I don't think that I'm going to get any accolades for a perfect kitchen. You know, like yesterday we were supposed to go to martial arts and I was, you know, I needed to do laundry both my kids were having just kind of an off day. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to cancel life and go get frozen yogurt right now,
Perfect.
And so whatever, and the old me would have been like, oh, like there's a mess. Like we got to do this. This is what we have to do. And like, who says,
Yeah.
Who says? And I think it's one of the,
standards of what we're supposed to do as mothers
yes.
who are working too.
Yes.
It's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. And there's a lot of comparison going on with social media. Like we're always comparing our behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel and really like understanding that, like just get up every day and do your best, like if you can go to bed, lay your head on the pillow every night and just say like, you know what? I played full out today. I gave it my best. Like that's enough. Mm-hmm. That's really like, if we can do that most days, I mean, what more can you ask for than getting to the end of your life and just feeling like, yeah, I played full out. Yeah. I was me. I showed up. I gave my best. Mm-hmm. I helped others, hopefully, right? Like, mm-hmm. I think legacy is really important. And I think oftentimes we think we can't leave a legacy because we consider legacy to be a financial term. Mm-hmm. Although it's great to leave a financial legacy as well, but every human can leave a legacy. Mm-hmm. And every human will leave a legacy, right? And so what is that legacy we're leaving? I hope to be just a rock in the pond. Yeah. And I hope that the ripples that I send out will move way beyond what I ever see. Mm-hmm. And if, sorry, I just got a call from school. If I get called again, I'm probably going to have to jump off. It's probably not a big thing.
If you were to encourage someone to step into their most extraordinary life, what would be the top 3 things you would?
Yeah. Own your truth. Mm-hmm. Really sit down and find out who it is you are and who it is you want to be and the life that you want to have and why, and mm-hmm. own it. Mm-hmm. Because every why is a good enough why. I would say, get up every day and do 5 things that move you closer mm-hmm. to that, whether it's, going to the gym, reading a book, getting in your Bible, whatever those things are, get up every day and just move closer to your dream, right? One step at a time, like forget the mountain, just take the next step. Yeah. And I would say dream bigger. Mm-hmm. I would say dream bigger. I think we all need to dream bigger. I believe there's like a sleeping giant in all of us. Unlimited potential. And so it's like, dream bigger. Like, I was at a retreat recently and she said, okay, everybody put your hand up. Watch, Kayla, put your hand up with me. Let me see. Like, put your hand up. There you go. All right. Is it high? Like you're high, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Can you reach just a little bit higher? You know what I mean? Like, because it's a 4-inch shift in the middle of the ocean that causes a tsunami. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like, I am dreaming big. I'm dreaming big. Can you dream a little bigger? Yes. Like, yeah, I could dream a little bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really where it starts. Like, just dream a little bit bigger, and then you'll find the resources that can contribute.
Yeah. You'll become very resourceful. That's one mm-hmm. of the things. I think Tony Robbins talks about it a lot too, is even if you don't have the resources, you can be very resourceful and yes. find them.
Yes.
Your passion, your drive, your clarity, your why is there. And I love that. That's something I've really held on to too, because you start to dream and then you're like, oh, well, I can't do this because of that. And you start to put this glass ceiling on top of yourself. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, your dream is like this. You're like mm-hmm. this. You've restricted it.
Yeah.
And if you let go of all of that and raise your hand up as high as you can, then all of that resourcefulness will start to come, and then your resources are handed to you. You figure it out. You will
figure it out.
But you have to have that big dream.
Yeah. And I think being in some sort of personal development every day is key, whether it's a podcast you like or a book on Audible or reading a book.
Yeah, inspirational. And that's why the biggest driving force for starting these interviews is I love having these conversations. And these conversations are what lights me up, is being in this space and talking to people that want to have that bigger vision and that bigger life and up-level their life. Like having those conversations totally lights me up and gets me in that space. And so selfishly, it's like, I want to talk to all these people and
totally
their knowledge and have these conversations, because we isolate ourselves. We're only as good as the people we surround ourselves by too. And if you're not having these conversations, if you're not listening to the podcast or reading the books, it gets contracted and heavy and we can't see that bigger vision. So have the conversations, talk to people. But okay. I'll let you
I'm so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so
Yes, I've got to go. I've got a school calling.
Okay,
Love you,
we'll
tons.
talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.